It's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there are so many different types of dhikr. Dhikr is not just one type or one act of dhikr that people think when we say dhikr. People think that you would say subhanallah, alhamdulillah as the dhikr, which is one of the types of dhikr, of course, but there are more than this. One of which is to recite Qur'an. And there are verses, a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that shows the virtue of reciting the Qur'an. And the Qur'an and reciting the Qur'an, the highest level of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Qur'an being the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So reciting the Qur'an with every letter is 10 rewards, as the Prophet ﷺ said. So to recite Qur'an in specific times at all times. There is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at specific times, specific places, specific situations, in the morning and in the evening, before going to sleep, entering the masjid, leaving the masjid, and so on. And we learn that from the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and the books of adhkar that compiled according to these types of chapters and places and things like that. And also to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua, invoking Allah, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in sujood in the salah, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the last part of the night between the adhan and the iqamah, when it rains, at all times during the Jumu'ah salah, at all times a person raise their hands and making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the great acts of worship and great acts of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Learning the religion, learning the deen, attending the gatherings of knowledge. When a person yatlub al-ilm, someone is seeking the knowledge of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the highest level of dhikr. Even as the ulama, they say, if it's either to seek knowledge at a particular time or to make nafl salah, optional salah, seeking knowledge is a priority, is more virtue. It doesn't mean that we neglect the optional salah, but in a specific time, in a specific situation that a person is engaged in. So all of these things are types of dhikr of Allah.